Tonight, discussions about Measure 110 reform are still ongoing in the Oregon legislature, and now a proposal to amend parts of the law is on the table.
Yeah, Oregon counties are now being asked to get on board with the plan by pledging to help those who commit drug crimes get the help they need. Fox 12's Carly Olson is live at the state capitol this evening with the details. Carly?
Pete and Riel, Oregon legislators are looking to pass a bill that would recriminalize the possession of small amounts of drugs for the first time in 3 years. It would also make treatment plans optional, and Oregon counties are being asked to pledge their support. It's a big change from the 2020 ballot measure, which changed Oregon law to decriminalize small amounts of illicit drugs. House Bill 4002 would create a new unclassified misdemeanor for those found in possession of a controlled substance, which would once again open the door to the possibility of jail time. But those charged with the misdemeanor would have the option to complete a treatment program, and if successful, charges would not be pursued. The Oregon Association of Counties sent out a letter to county leaders around the state this week, saying legislators are asking them to commit to implementing so-called deflection programs, which would coordinate law enforcement and groups that assist those with drug or behavioral health issues to find avenues for treatment and housing. The letter also said that such an indication should lead to fast-tracked funding to support the building of a program this year. Washington County leaders tell us they haven't yet had the chance to review the programs, and Multnomah County leaders say they are carefully reviewing the contents of the bill. Clackamas County leaders did not provide a comment on whether they will participate. Leaders with the ACLU expressed concern over the bill, saying underrepresented groups will be impacted if individual counties are left in charge of programs. Their statement also said in part, criminalization is not a real solution. It is a false promise that will inevitably result in more overdose deaths in the Oregon communities that most desperately need access to care. As talks on the bill continue, House Republican leader Jeff Helfrich told us in a statement, "We are conceptually aligned, but we still need to review the final draft." The Oregon Association of Counties has said that county leaders need to sign on to this program by tomorrow or else risk losing out on that fast-tracked funding. Reporting live in Salem, Carly Olson, Fox 12 Oregon.